Britain's King Charles III hailed his country's long-standing relationship with the United States as he attended a lavish state dinner at the White House on Tuesday during a 4-day visit to mark the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence.
The story of Britain and America is one of reconciliation from adversaries to the closest of allies, not always perhaps following the straightest path. Tonight, we are here to renew an indispensable alliance which has long been a cornerstone of prosperity and security for both British and American citizens.
King Charles also echoed the tone of his earlier speech to Congress, where he delivered a series of nuanced warnings urging international cooperation in global affairs.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, when NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, and the United Nations Security Council was united in the face of terror, we answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century. Today, Mr. Speaker, that same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people.
The king mostly struck a light-hearted tone, with several subtle digs at Trump himself.
Indeed, you recently commented, Mr. President, that if it were not for the United States, European countries would be speaking German. Dare I say that if it wasn't for us, you'd be speaking French.
Trump, in turn, didn't seem to mind, praising King Charles for what he called a fantastic speech.
World leaders gathered in Colombia for talks on how to accelerate the move away from fossil fuels. The conference is co-hosted by Colombia and the Netherlands and is the first of its kind. It was announced after last year's UN climate summit, which many within the climate movement have been disappointed with. While countries have acknowledged the need to phase out of fossil fuels, the COP conferences have not resulted in a concrete plan. Organizers also pointed to the conflict in the Middle East, which has disrupted global oil supplies, further emphasizing the need to reduce reliance on fossil fuels.
Avoidable. We must transition away from fossil fuels, not just because it's good for climate, but because it also strengthens our energy independence and our energy security.
Esa dependencia no es casual. Es el resultado de un ordenamiento económico que reproduce la subordinación y la vulnerabilidad. Más grave aún, las guerras contemporáneas no pueden entenderse al margen del mercado de las energías fósiles.
Despite 60 countries being in attendance, the Trump administration was not invited. The decision was made in response to Trump's stance on the issue. The U.S. president has previously called climate change a hoax and also withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Agreement. Some of the other biggest emitters of greenhouse gases, including China and India, are also not attending the summit. Neither are the oil-producing Gulf states.
The United Arab Emirates announced on Tuesday that it will leave the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, effective on May the 1st. The time has come to focus our efforts on what our national interest dictates and our commitment to our investors, customers, partners, and global energy markets, the UAE said in a statement. The UAE's decision to quit the alliance of the world's biggest oil producers and make its own decisions away from Saudi Arabia and the other OPEC members strikes a heavy blow to the oil-exporting countries who produce a third of the global oil supply and signals a fundamental reshape of the global energy interactions, just as the global energy crisis is escalating over Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz.
Europe's first complete lithium mine begins operating in Sivajärvi in western Finland. The strategic resource is critical for manufacturing modern electronics. At a cost of around €783 million, Project Keliber was mainly funded by South African mining giant Sibanye-Stillwater and the European Union. Hannu Hautala, CEO of Keliber, explains the full production chain to produce battery-quality lithium.
we are now extracting spodumene ore. It contains some 1 to 1.3% lithium oxide. Then we transport it to the concentrator, and there the lithium oxide content is increased to 5%. And further to lithium refinery, and there the lithium concentrate is produced as a battery quality lithium hydroxide.
Meanwhile, locals from a nearby town say they have mixed feelings about the mine, as they recognise it is good for employment but worry about the environmental impact. The Calibre project covers more than 500 square kilometres and 6 other mining sites are planned in the area. Some compare the role of lithium nowadays to the role that oil played at the start of the 20th century.
Lebanon's health ministry said Israeli strikes on Tuesday killed 8 people, including 3 rescue workers in the country's south. The strikes came as violence continues in Lebanon despite an ongoing ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, as both sides blame each other for violations of the truce. Shortly after issuing fresh evacuation orders, state media said Israel carried out airstrikes across the south, hitting targets that all appeared to be outside or on the border of the Yellow Line, an Israeli military-occupied buffer zone that stretches 10 kilometers. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar claimed the buffer zone is necessary to protect residents in Israel's north.
Israel has no territorial ambitions in Lebanon. Our presence in the areas by our northern border serves one purpose: protecting our citizens.
Sa'ar refused to comment on the fragile ceasefire with Hezbollah, which both sides have violated multiple times since Trump announced it last week, and whether Israel might expand its military operations beyond southern Lebanon. Meanwhile, Israel's military also announced it had destroyed 2 Hezbollah tunnel networks in the town of Kantara.
In Gaza, a severe shortage of spare parts has paralyzed the transport sector. As part of the ceasefire terms, at least 600 aid trucks a day should be permitted to enter Gaza. However, many organizations warn the amount of aid entering the strip are still inadequate. Amid the limited flow of goods into Gaza, spare auto parts have been among the lowest priority items.
والله الوضع الحالي سيء جدا جدا. هاي الوضع الحالي الباصات قاعدة، السيارات كمان قاعدة، لا في كاوشوك عنا ولا في بطاريات ولا في زيوت، الزيت ب1000 شيكل وزيادة، البطارية ب20,000 شيكل و15,000 شيكل ب10,000 المستخدمة، الكاوشوك ب20,000 شيكل الفردة، يعني صراحة الوضع صعب.
On the ground, the impact is clear. Cars remain parked, buses are out of service, and basic repairs are no longer affordable. Prices have skyrocketed, and repairs that once took hours now take days.
بعد 7 أكتوبر فيش قطع غيار، احنا بنستبدل الحاجات قديمة وبنحاول انه زي ما بنقول ان الرملة من الشيء انها تمشي مع الزبون. يعني كانت تكلفة الأوفرهول لأي سيارة بدنا نعملها كانت تكلفتها حوالي 2000-2500 شيكل. اليوم تطلع فوق 17,000 شيكل. الشغله الوحيده اللي مش متوفره اللي هو الزيت. سعر لتر الزيت اليوم يتراوح فوق 1000 شيكل ان وجد، والقديم فوق 300 شيكل حاليا. فاغلب السواقين كلهم بتعاني من هذه القصه لانه ما فيش زيوت والمواتير بتقف.
The shortage of spare parts is not only impacting civilians and owners of commercial vehicles, but also emergency response teams. Economists warn that if the situation persists, it could result in near total paralysis of the transport and services sector, restricting people's access to hospitals, essential services, and places of work.
French President and co-Prince of Andorra, Emmanuel Macron, has called for the debate on decriminalizing abortion to move forward in Andorra during his visit of the microstates. Alongside the Vatican, the Principality of Andorra is the only European country to completely ban abortion, even in case of rape, incest, danger to the mother, or fetal abnormality.
Votre gouvernement a fait une proposition d'avancée. Elle me paraît proportionnée. Et avançant sur la dépénalisation pour les femmes, elle va sur ce chemin. De là où je suis, sans préempter vos débats à venir, je souhaite avec affection que ce débat progresse.
Women in Andorra face up to 6 months in prison for having abortion. Doctors who perform them face up to 3 years in prison and a 5-year ban on practicing. In March, the head of the Andorran government, Xavier Espot Zamora, said he was hoping he could decriminalize abortion within a year, yet without legalizing it.
A 21-year-old man accused of plotting to attack one of Taylor Swift's concerts in Vienna in August 2024 pleaded guilty as his trial began in Austria on Tuesday. The plot was thwarted, but Austrian authorities still cancelled Swift's 3 performances in Vienna as part of her Eras tour. The Austrian man, named only as Baron A., pleaded guilty to the charges related to the concert plot and to being a member of a terrorist organization. He allegedly networked with members of the jihadist group Islamic State ahead of the planned attack. In 2024, authorities said the suspect had hoped to kill as many people as possible and were given U.S. intelligence that led to the decision to cancel the concerts. He allegedly planned to target onlookers outside the Ernst Happel Stadium, where up to 30,000 people were expected to gather each night, along with 65,000 inside the venue. Baron A's defense attorney said he deeply regrets his actions. If convicted, he could face up to 20 years in prison.